revolution in teaching all of India on how to read labels, and that's a great revolution which you're bringing in the Indian market. But I want to understand, when was the time, when your interest actually developed in food and nutrition. So can you share more about that time?
Sure. So it kept changing. I grew up as a regular, typical kid who eats junk all the time. Around when I was the age of 20 to 23, I was in the US, and that time I took a nutrition course. 1 year, basically 1 year degree on nutrition. That's where I learned a lot about it. But I was still relatively I was obviously more aware than most people, but it's not that I ate super clean or anything like that. In general, I spent a lot of time in the US, and I would get frustrated at how much packaged food there was in the US. And every meal, whether you're having breakfast or lunch or dinner, it invariably becomes like you're reheating a frozen food or a packaged food and things like that.
Yeah.
And I used to try to eat healthy sometimes, but even then, I used to fall for brands which were calling themselves healthy, but they were not actually as healthy, like organic lemonade. And then I did when I would a little bit study, little good go into it, I would realize that organic lemonade has even more sugar than a Coca-Cola. Things like that. So it was just a very frustrating process in the US, how much packaged food was there and things like that, which is why I felt like I want to do something about it. Especially I'm relatively privileged. I was doing a good job in the US, but instead of doing it in the US, I thought, why not do something in India, where I'm from, and where there is an even bigger need. There's even more health illiteracy, and that's why I decided to take a major risk and come back to India and do something in the nutrition space in India.
Sure. So, like you just mentioned that you did a course in nutrition, and then I think in between you also wrote a book, and last year onwards you started making some videos. So, given today's scenario and time, do you think video, of course, is a better format to reach out more people, and that too in the Indian market, where of course the entire creative scenario is taking place?
100%. I feel both a book and a video is content creation. Sometimes when you make a video, you're called a content creator. When you write a book, you're not called a content creator, but I feel like you're technically creating content in both ways. And the sad part is that when you write a book, there's a lot of credibility, and you're an author, and it's considered to be a very big deal. If you make videos, it's sort of like, "Arey, ye to video banata hai." And there's a difference in the level of respect and things like that. But I just look at them as a medium of communication, and there are way more people, I would say, watching videos at this point. So I did write a book, but then it's even the best-selling books, barely 1 lakh people are reading a best-selling book. 1 lakh is a lot of copies in the book space. But you can make a video and get 1 lakh views pretty easily. So I think we should not be very hung up on the format and things like that. And that's why I feel like book is video, you can, the first ever video I made, which went very, very viral, and I got legal cases and all for it, was just literally just using the phone. Even now, every single video I made is through this phone itself, this particular phone. I'm not using any camera or anything like that. But in that particular case, I did not even have a mobile stand. So I just put the phone on the laptop itself, and using the laptop, just as a support. So the point is that it helps reduce the barrier of entry a lot, and it also makes the people feel that this is a very natural, organic way. It's not like someone selling you anything. It's free for them to consume, and it's just easier. Yeah.
So how has been the journey from being a consultant at McKinsey to joining the world of creators?
It's obviously very, very interesting and fascinating that 1.5 years ago, I was sort of on the other side of the table, where I was advising food brands. Now I am sort of critiquing food brands, you can call it that. But I want to say one thing, the word creator or influencer and things like that, these are terms which people have used for me, but I don't necessarily view myself as a creator per se or an influencer per se or anything like that. It just, as I said earlier, it is just a medium of communication. You use videos to communicate. Technically, like, even Narendra Modi is an influencer or a content creator, or like, or like anyone, like, whether you're a politician or a cricketer or an actor or anything, you're still a content creator. You're making videos online. So it is just a medium of communication. And if I was doing the exact same thing, but if I was going to the streets outside the company's office and I was like, oh, why you have so much sugar in your food? People would call me an activist. Even if I just got 5 people around me to support me, now I have like 40 lakh people following me. Yeah. But you are sort of viewed as a content creator. It's a very different sort of a thing, and we sometimes don't understand the entire thing. But yeah, I mean, it is, to answer your question, it is pretty fascinating because when you have to, I'm coming back to your question, sorry, I digressed a bit, is that when you are at McKinsey, you have a very nice, stable path. Like you're making very good money, and there's a path where everyone around you is doing, all your friends and colleagues and all are all doing jobs at similar companies. Someone's at McKinsey, someone's at Google, someone's at BCG, someone's at all of these type of companies. So no one ever thinks of, like, leaving that life and making videos, that too against companies. And the problem was that when I made my first few videos against companies, I got, as you know, legal cases from them. And then if you Googled my name, it would become like Revant Himmat Singh ka legal case, court case, and things like that. So not only did I leave my job, I also sort of stopped myself from like potentially ever getting a job again, because no one wants to hire someone who's the first page on Google is just like legal case, court case, going against companies. So it was a very risky and scary scenario in my family as well. Now it's a bit different. In 1.5 years now, I have a lot more a lot more people supporting me, and a lot more people in that sense. But in the first 2-3 months, you can imagine leaving your job, quitting, and fighting all of this, getting these court cases, getting sort of so that was a very challenging process overall. Yeah.
So Revant, what exactly was that trigger point, I would say, which made you dedicate your entire career to creating social impact?
I'll say one thing, I always think about big picture, and in our life, what is most important in our life? One of the most important things is health. What is health determined by? One of the things which health is determined by is food. One of the most important things which is determining health is food. The food we eat today is majorly packaged food. It's the first time ever in our history we are eating so much packaged food. And the packaged food is blatantly lying to us. So I realized that if you solve packaged food which is lying to you, it helps solve one of the most important issues in life. Once again, life, health, food, packaged food. And that was basically that realization that how important this is. Again, when I was in the US, I was eating this, I was buying this going to the grocery store and buying this packaged food so regularly. I just realized how important this is, and no one is really talking about it. And there is just so much misinformation around it. People buying drinks which they think it will make them taller. People buying sugary cereals, thinking it is providing them fiber and things like that. I just realized how important it is. And the entire healthcare industry, if you look at India's budget, or if you look at any country's budget, even the US's budget or things like that, most of it is spent on curative healthcare, not preventative healthcare. So people are spending on medicines and hospitals and things like that. A very, very, very tiny percentage of our budget is spent on preventative healthcare, which is how can we teach people about health and reduce the likelihood of the medicine or the need for the medicine in the first place. And actually, there's a much more cost-efficient way to spend your money. Like once again, like I was also an MBA. I did my my MBA from Wharton. I studied finance and things like that. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is that if you look at the efficiency, how you deploy your money, it is very inefficient right now. The way we do it is like we're like, okay, once someone gets diabetes, we'll treat them and then we'll build hospitals for them. But if we as a child we taught them about the right foods, the likelihood of diabetes would reduce, and as a result our money would be deployed much more efficiently as a government. So this is why I keep saying one thing. Sorry, I digress a lot on the answer. Is that Indians, we are educated but we are not health literate. There's a very big difference between being educated and being health literate. I have gone to speak at IITs and IIMs as well, and you ask many of the smartest Indians that what is calorie, protein, how many calories do you need in a day, how much protein do you need in a day. People often don't know the answer. So, which is why I feel health should be a part of our school curriculum.
So, Revant, we know that you quit your high-paying job and now, of course, you're living life as a social impact maker. So, when you think about making money and fighting all those legal battles, how are you doing that? You want to share about that?
It is the monetization aspect is very challenging because it's very, very difficult in how to make money while retaining trust. So the way I have chosen for 1 year, I did not make a single rupee, and I get brand deals every single day. Every single day there's some food company which reaches out like, oh, can you promote us and things like that. But I kept saying no. Now I have 2-3 ways I make money. One is I have launched a health school. What it is that it is a way I teach people health, and I don't want to be selling a 500 rupee course many influencers and all do. So it's completely pay what you want. You can pay whatever you want. You can even pay nothing if you choose to. And we donate a very large percentage of it to feeding hungry children essentially. So what the idea is that in one step, we are trying to increase health literacy and reduce hunger in one step.
Okay.
So because people are paying us for the health courses, they are getting more and more health literate. And at the same time, we are using a percentage of that money towards Akshay Patra and which is one of the organizations which feeds children. So that is the idea. And I'm hoping I can make it pay what you want for as long as possible. So that is one way I make money. The second way I make money is through talks. So sometimes I am invited by companies and organizations to speak at events, which I am trying to do paid. Sometimes I do, if it's in a school, I usually every time I've spoken at a school so far, it's been for free, but that is another way. So there are some ways like this which I am trying to monetize.
Okay, but do you think that's something you can sustain in the long run as well?
It is challenging, to be very honest. So I am trying to find brands where I align with their values or I myself use, and if I can promote that. But there is still a risk of if I am saying this particular food product is good and I myself eat it, the worry is that it'll look that I'll become like the influencer then. Even if it's a very genuine thing.
Yeah.
But that is the worry, that it may get perceived arey, this guy is just another influencer or whatever. So that is why I have been worried that should I do it, should I not. I have got for example, in the food space I try to stay away from. I don't want to do brand deals.
But you're staying away from many deals from any of the food brands, a lot of startups these days are promoting products which might be actually good.
Yeah, so far I'm staying away from food brands.
Okay. So, going forward, what's your plan, Revant? Will you continue doing this video journey further, or is there any particular strategy in terms of building your individual brand in the coming year?
Videos will always be a part because it's one of the easiest ways to reach out to people. So that will always be a part. Now there are 3-4 other things which I'm trying to do. I just yesterday posted about the protein school series where I'm trying to partner with doctors and nutritionists to basically come up with like research on protein topics. How can vegetarians get protein? Is collagen good for you? Is keratin good for you? How do you the relationship between protein and diabetes? So that is one thing which I'm focusing on, is the lack of protein in India, and like how can we do about something about this. There are things like that. Basically, like I have another initiative where I'm working with a company on building an app which scans the barcode of a food label and give you a health rating.
Okay.
So you take any packaged food and you just scan the barcode and it will give you like a health score A, B, C, D and things like that, and you find out what's good for you, what is not good for you. So that is another initiative which I am trying to be a part of, because that's like a using technology to do good, and like to make it simpler for people to buy healthier food. So there are things like that basically which I'm trying to do. Also trying to see if I can work in some way or form with the government, or in parallel with the government, in getting health in the school curriculum. So I've spoken about this a lot, at just the way we study history, geography, we should study health in schools. I've been talking to some curriculum developers, and there is someone who's in an NGO who works in this space, in the health literacy space, that can we create a curriculum which is for children in schools, and can we do a pilot campaign and things like that.
Can you also give us some idea in terms of when you are building a particular video about a brand, or you want to highlight something, what's your content strategy like? What all goes behind making that video?
Content strategy is just that it should be a common product. That I can make it on Maggie, I can make it on Coke, Pepsi, but I will not really make it on some extra virgin olive oil which is very, very niche to a particular income group or something like that. So that is the main thing, is it should be commonly used. The other thing which I look at is that it should be, usually I talk about false marketing. So I don't speak about junk food as much as I speak about false marketing, that you're calling yourself X but you actually Y. So I keep saying this one line: I'm not against junk food, I'm against junk food marketing itself as healthy. Because junk food marketing itself as healthy is even more dangerous than junk food.
Correct.
The process of creating a video is just selecting the particular product. Sometimes I actually go to the grocery store itself and find the product. I'm walking to the grocery store and seeing what's happening and things like that. And then I just shortlist some products where I feel like there's been some false marketing. I do some research on it on Google, on using scientific reports and things like that. I sometimes, if I don't feel like I have enough knowledge, I speak to a doctor. In some videos, I've even collaborated with a doctor. I was not sure about gut health in one video and probiotics, so I collaborated with a doctor in that video. So yeah, that's pretty much the process, and then we shoot it and we edit. I have one editor who helps me with editing, and that's it.
And it is Revant, because rather than going to a grocery store, we are all mostly buying online with the influx of quick commerce. Do you think it has become difficult because we just go by brand and search the brand and then buy the product? So any changes in your content strategy you are doing to target that audience?
Yeah, it is challenging, because I think junk food is getting more and more, it's easier to binge on junk food, I think, because even myself, I saw myself ordering an ice cream after dinner, and I would not have done that if I had to make the effort of going somewhere out and buying it myself, or if I had to wait for 45 minutes. But the appeal of, the ice cream will reach my house in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That definitely led me to order that ice cream. So obviously it is in that sense, something which we need to be mindful of. Having said that, I haven't had any campaign or anything like that in relation to it yet. In my content itself, yeah, I think that's a good idea, that I should maybe focus on something with quick commerce, on how to pick healthy foods on quick commerce, or integrating them in some way or form. But yeah, because our grocery is entirely shifting that way.
I look forward to such video from you soon.
Yeah.
And lastly, Revant, you just mentioned that when you were there in the US, there of course it's much more difficult. Going forward, do you think you want to raise your social voice not just in India, internationally as well, in terms of reading
100%.
the labels right.
100%. So unfortunately, I don't think there's pretty much any Indian who's a full-on global figure. Like maybe Priyanka Chopra in some ways, maybe Narendra Modi in some ways, but even if you look at the Bollywood stars or the cricketers or anyone, they're they're only famous amongst Indians and the Indians abroad. Having lived 13 years outside India, I see so many Indians currently. They follow K-pop and they follow Squid Game and they follow so many shows which are not from India. And they follow Mr. Beast and things like that. But there's no American who's following Virat Kohli or Sachin or any Indian Carrie Minaj or any Tanmay Bhatt or Beer Biceps. There's no one who's following any Indian cricket. It's very difficult, I feel, as an Indian to become there's some barrier which exists which has led to not the global world not accepting Indian voices as much. For whatever reason, maybe it's our accent, I don't know what it is, but there is something which is making it difficult. I do want to talk about it. Just half an hour ago, I posted a story of Label Padega Sweden. Someone in Sweden posted about some drink in Sweden and things like that. Although it's an Indian living in Sweden, junk food and packaged food is there everywhere. And having lived abroad, I understand I lived in US and UK and Dubai for quite a few years, so I understand the challenges there as well. So I do definitely want to speak about it on a global level, not just in India level. It just has to be time, one step at a time. I started making my videos in English, but now I make 50% of my videos in Hindi because I want to reach to a wider audience. It's only possible to reach a global audience, I think, if I again go back to fully English. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge because and I have to keep balancing the Indian audience with the global audience.
But something like this exists in the international markets as well? Somebody raising a voice?
There are some people, but they are often quite commercial. There are people who speak about junk food and how much sugar there is in XYZ product and things like that. But it's very different. They have very strong opinions sometimes on they often don't get the right audience. The audience also hates them because they often are they have their own agenda of often. So, but yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, there are some people, but I have not met or seen anyone online has a very strong public following or they're liked. They often they are often criticized a lot also, the people who are, because I don't know, it's a tone or they sometimes contradict themselves, that one day they'll say this is good, then the next day they'll say that is not actually good. But there is definitely a lot of room to raise awareness, not just in India but also in other countries. It's just that I choose to focus on India right now.
And lastly, Vedant, how do you keep yourself motivated with, there's so many lawsuits happening these days. What's your motivation like? How do you keep yourself sane?
So it's just it is challenging. Mental health wise, it is very challenging. The public's comments when you go to an airport, the people come to you and they say such positive things that they change their entire health because of you and they've lost so much weight or their sugar level has gone down and so many things like that which motivates you. One mother had sent me a message saying that she named her child Raven. After the courage that she's seen online and things like that, and she wants her child to also have the same courage. So of course things like this that does obviously motivate you, and that is why now, earlier when I used to receive legal notices, sometimes I used to delete the videos. Now when I received a legal notice, I fight it back because there's so much of love, affection and trust that I have that I want to give it back in that sense.
Okay, thank you, Revan. That's all I wanted to know from you, and you're on a great path. I wish you a wonderful journey ahead.
Thank you so much.